guess it depends what you believe, right? I think it's just taught, ingrained in me when I grew up, right?
Yeah. Were your mom and dad very religious?
Oh, no, not really.
No. You just quoted a verse from the Bible, whether you know it or not. Jesus says to treat others the way you want to be treated, to love he says it this way, love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Yep.
That's what he says. So if you're not very religious, where do you think morals come from?
Oh, that's tough. I just think they're ingrained in you, right? See people around me, how they act.
That's a little different than being ingrained in you. Seeing people, the way people act around me, and me picking up morals from the way people act around me. That's a bit different than them being ingrained. I would lean toward, yes, they're ingrained inside of every one of us because we have a conscience. Conscience means with, science means knowledge. So every single one of us are with knowledge about these universal standards that everyone has. So if I go to a tribe in Africa, everyone knows there that it's wrong to kill someone, especially someone you love, right? Yeah. Especially one of the members of the tribe. But yet they'd go out and they would do that from time to time. And so what we have to do, we have to ask ourselves, when we know it's wrong to lie, when we know it's wrong to steal, when we know it's wrong to murder, where do these things come from? We just can't go down to the local Walmart and pick up a bag of thou shalt not lie, and pick up a bag of stealing, or thou shalt not steal, and thou shalt not murder. So where do these things come from? They float around the sky and get in our ears while we sleep at night? I think it's something a lot bigger than that. It comes from God. So when we're moral people, when you are considerate of somebody and loving towards somebody, and you don't rob and steal from them, you're actually bearing the image of God on your conscience. Mm-hmm. So I believe that God, who created us, has given us these instinctive morals to show us who we should be and who He is. And when we break them, it's kind of like an internal smoke alarm going off, going, that's not right. Like when my kids don't obey me when Dad's asked them kindly to do something, I have to teach them to tell me no, right?
Yeah.
That they instinctively do it. And that comes from what the Scriptures would call us, our sinful nature. That all of us have sinned and fall short of the standards that God has set for us. See, God's standards aren't bad. God's standards are actually good, but we're the ones who are bad because we broke them. Does that make sense on what I'm saying?
Yeah.
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 So at the end of the day, just ask yourself a few questions here. Have you ever lied, and have you ever stolen anything that didn't belong to you? Have you ever done that? Regardless of the value.
Yeah, absolutely. I've lied.
Yeah, all of us have.
Yeah.
So now, if God is completely just, a God that has revealed Himself to you and to me through creation, through His precious word in the Bible, if He is completely just, would you be guilty or innocent of breaking those two commands that I shared with you?
I'm still guilty.
Yeah. And if He is completely just, this is the bad news, would you go to heaven or hell if He's just?
I guess it depends what you believe, right?
Well, remember, our belief cannot determine morals, no better than what we believe determines where we go after death. See, God determines that because He created us. So that's the biggest, and I used to believe that way before I came to Christ. And if I interview 10 people, 8 out of 10 would believe this very same way you believe, that what we believe determines what is true.
Yep.
That's just not the case. I mean, if that were the case, then Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't wrong for butchering those people and eating them, right? Because that's what he believed was the right thing for him to do.
Yeah.
See, there has to be a revealed truth that comes from outside of ourselves that gives us a foundation to stand on. The rest of us is kind of sinking sand of personal preference. And that's a lot of what we see going on in our society. That's why I asked the question in the beginning, what do you think is wrong with humanity? It's people are just doing whatever they want to do, whatever is right in their own eyes. And we can't have a civilized society that way.
Yeah.
We just can't. So you would, I hate to say this, but it's true, you would go to hell unless you have Jesus, okay? I don't want you to feel the brunt of God's justice. Jesus came to die so you don't have to feel the brunt of his justice. You can be forgiven because he came to pay the price so you could be forgiven. He was buried in the tomb, but he came out of the grave defeating both death and hell. Jesus was a perfect sacrifice. He came once for all, the righteous for the unrighteous, so that you, darling, could be forgiven and go to heaven, okay?
Sure.
Yes, he did. And so that's why all men and women everywhere are to repent. That means to change your mind and to place your faith in what Jesus did. That's the best gift anyone could ever give you, is
Cool.
Jesus, all right?
All
Take
right,
some time to think about it,
thanks.
okay?
Yep.
Have a good day. Do you have a Bible?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, all right.